From the physically demanding Mesoamerican ball game to the blood and gore of the Roman gladiatorial games, our ancestors suffered the same whirlwind of feelings we do today, and I'll tell you all about it. Hello and welcome to our channel, where I, your history guy, draw back the curtains to give you unrestricted access to ancient weird history. In today's video, you'll discover ancient games that endured through the centuries and evolved into some of the finest sports we love today. So, sit back and relax. It's gonna be an exciting history journey. We begin with the game where the losers literally lost their heads. You snooze, you lose, right? Well, in the game of poker talk, you snooze, you lose your head. Arguably the oldest game ever played. Poker talk, or Mesoamerican game ball, was both a sport and a ritual. Played around 5000 BC, poker talk embodied the spirit and culture of the Mesoamerican people, teaching them the virtues like resilience, teamwork, and hard work. The game involved two teams trying to score goals by propelling a rubber ball with only the hips. Yes, Shakira said it best, hips don't lie. The team with the highest goals was declared the winner and received massive cheers from the spectators. The losers, on the other hand, went home with their heads bowed, shoulders slumped, and their tails between their legs. Other losing teams who weren't so lucky were decapitated, and their heads used as balls for the next game. Poker talk is still played today, but thankfully, the losers get to keep their heads. They just hang them in shame until the next game. Another game where a participant could lose both the game and his life was the ancient Roman gladiatorial games. These games involved professional fighters who slugged it out till their final breath. The fighters were adept at using one specialized weapon or the other and employed several strategies to their advantage during the game. The gladiators were usually prisoners of war, slaves, or criminals. However, aristocrats who had gone bankrupt and badly needed money could opt to enter the arena to earn a living. At least it was better to lead this life as a gladiator than to endure the many years of mockery and being used as the standard of stupidity. Sometimes the gladiators refused to fight for several reasons, like in the games organized by Quintus Aurelius Symmachus in 401 CE, where the gladiators resorted to strange means to register their displeasure against the sports. The Romans had just conquered the Germanic tribes and forced some of the men to become gladiators. However, the night before the games, the gladiators strangled each other in their cells. Imagine the surprise on the faces of the guards when they came to fetch their prized fighters. Oops, this is going to be awkward. Now they had to think, how were they going to break this news to the teeming crowd that had trekked long distances and paid good money to watch the fights? Many people link some aspects of the gladiatorial games to today's MMA. Do you agree with them? Let us know. I'll be happy to read your thoughts in the comments section. And while you're at it, perhaps you could give this video a like and subscribe to our channel. Your enthusiasm helps us produce more exciting content such as this. Now, back to our video. One sport that thankfully didn't require the heads of the vanquished was the ancient Greek Olympic Games. Unlike the gladiatorial games, the Olympics tested the athletic skills and endurance of its competitors. The first games were held in 776 BC at the Pan-Hellenic religious sanctuary of Olympia in honor of the chief god Zeus. It included running, javelin, shot put, and equestrian events. Later, combat sports such as boxing, pancration, and wrestling were added to the excitement of the occasion. What began as a one-day festival turned into 3 days, and then 5 days because the audience just couldn't get enough. Unfortunately, the games came to an end somewhere in the 4th century, when fire gutted the temple of the patron god Zeus. The games were held sparingly until 1896, when it became a worldwide spectacle under the International Olympic Committee. Another game that has endured the test of time is the Egyptian Senate, a board game that tested the mental capacity of its players. Played on a 30-square board, the game's origin can be traced to 2670 BC. It involved moving about 10 pawns or pieces across the Senate board, which represented the various stages of life. The exact gameplay still remains a mystery, as much of ancient Egypt is. but we know that it certainly depicts the sophistication, ingenuity, and craft of the ancient Egyptians. A player wins when they move their pieces from one end of the board to the other, meaning they've successfully navigated the maze of life. Much like a modern version of chess, Senet required a lot of thinking, planning, and strategizing. Egyptian Senet is still being played in various countries around the world, with a free online version available to whoever is interested. You'd be forgiven to think that Senet is the ancestor of chess. At least that's what I thought until I discovered the Indian Chaturanga. Historians speculate that the Chaturanga goes as far back as the 7th century CE, when it flourished in northwestern India. Others even suggest that it goes further back to 5,000 years. Whichever one is correct, one thing is certain: the Chaturanga is as old as your grandfather's jokes. The Chaturanga was a war game played on an unchecked 8x8 board, and it involved moving various pieces to checkmate the opponent king, referred to as Raja. Historians believe that the Chaturanga influenced other Asian board games such as Xiangqi of China, the Japanese shogi, the Korean jangi, and the Burmese sityun, all related to chess. While these games stretch the limits of the brain, one ancient game that tested the limits of human agility was the ancient Chinese jianzi, also known as shuttlecock. The jianzi, which is similar to badminton but without the bat and net, involves juggling a shuttlecock between two players on a court. The players can use any part of their bodies except their hands to keep the shuttlecock in the air. Once the shuttlecock touched the ground in the half of the opposition, the other team scored a point. It is a sight to watch as players display their nimble dexterity and deft touches to outwit their opponents, a feat I can never achieve thanks to my clumsy feet. Jianzi is believed to have evolved from Kuju, an ancient Chinese game similar to modern football, or as you will, soccer. Kuju involved two teams trying to score a goal by kicking a ball through an opening in a central net. However, unlike modern soccer, the ball must stay in the air at all times and can only touch the ground when a goal is scored. Also, each team didn't have their own nets or goal posts as we do in modern soccer. Instead, there was only one net with an opening in the middle of the field, where each team tried to kick the ball through. The Kuju was the main game of the Chinese military and was designed to sharpen the dexterity of the warriors while enforcing teamwork. Gradually, the game spread and evolved into what we know today as soccer. But what about MMA? Well, the origins of MMA can be difficult to trace because MMA itself is a combination of different disciplines, each with its own history. There's wrestling, boxing, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, karate, kickboxing, judo, etc. However, one ancient sport that is closely associated, though it has no direct connection to the history of MMA, is pankration. Pankration is a Greek combat sport that involves kicks, locks, submission holds, boxing, and even strangulations. In the Spartan version of the sport, biting and gouging of the eyes of the opponent were allowed, and trust the ancient Greeks to create a myth for the sport. According to them, Heracles and Theseus invented pankration after employing the fighting techniques in their battles against opponents and wild beasts. They then taught it to their various patrons who spread it across the city-states. Before long, it became the passion of the nation and was eventually adopted into the ancient Olympics around 200 BC. While pankration involved only two fighters who entertained thousands of spectators, a game that involved hundreds of players with almost no spectators was the Native American lacrosse. Dating back to 1100 CE, the Native American lacrosse was played among the tribes of the eastern woodland and plains Indians in what now has become America and Canada. The original game involved balls and sticks with hoops at the end. To begin the game, the ball was thrown into the air, and two opposing teams rushed to catch it. As I already mentioned, the players on each team could be anywhere between 100 and 1,000 on a 1 or 2 kilometer field. The size of the field and the number of the players meant that there was a lot of running and clashing with opponents. In fact, players who dodged opponents were mercilessly ridiculed until the next game. Meanwhile, if you want to know more about the history of ancient New Year celebrations, click on this video and I'll see you there. Until next time, thanks ever so much for watching.